David here with figbootonpens. Today I have for you the second in a series of top 10 lists for this year. Last week we took a look at the top 10 pens under $50, and today I'm going to take it up a notch and focus on the pens in the $50 to $100 range. I didn't set many rules for myself in regard to this list. Some of these pens I've previously reviewed on my channel and some I've not. Of the top 10, I think I have 7 already posted as far as reviews goes. And in regard to pricing, this is a list where it really starts getting tough to categorize certain pens, especially the Japanese models, where there are alternative markets where pens can be priced significantly less than in other parts of the world. All I could say in regard to that is that I placed the pens in the category I best felt that they would fit, taking into consideration if it was reasonable that you could be able to find the pen at the same price. Now, for some Japanese pens, that might require you purchasing from overseas or sites like Amazon or eBay, but that's a discussion for another day. One more thing, each of these pens are from my personal collection, which I own. In my under $50 list, a viewer had made a post saying that they felt that the Conklin Durograph should have been included. And you know what? They were right. It should have been. But I don't own one. The Durograph that I reviewed a couple of weeks back was provided to me by the good folks at Pen Chalet to review and give away, so I no longer had one in my possession. So I did actually have to rectify that, and I purchased one this week from Pen Chalet, so who knows, maybe the Durograph will make an appearance on next year's list. It is a decent pen under $50. In my mind, if you're interested in this list, chances are this isn't your very first fountain pen purchase. You have a number of entry-level pens in your collection, and you are looking to take that next step up in price, in quality, and potentially even a pen with a gold nib. So keeping that in mind, let's start off with a couple of honorable mentions. The first honorable mention is the only pen that I keep in the box it came in, mainly because the box is so cool. It makes me feel like a secret agent. And that pen is the Levenger L-Tech 3.0. And it comes in this metal briefcase-like case. Inside, the pen actually sits in a little cutaway padding, kind of like a weapon of sorts. The L-Tech is a descendant of the Rotring 600, a pen which has been discontinued. Levenger actually used to sell a Rotring 600 branded with their name. It's a metal pen which is fairly heavy, and you really don't want to post it because it really does have a tendency to backweight the pen too much. The section is a bit small for my taste, but I really like the knurling that's on the section. It really gives it a unique feel in your hand, and I really like the stealth black look of the nib as well. It does come with 2 different stylus tips that you can affix to the top of the pen, but personally I find that a little gimmicky. Who knows, maybe there's folks out there who like to use a stylus for their tablet, but I just personally don't have much use for them. But this is a nice pen that is a unique, very unique pen, and as it does actually write very well as well. If you can't get your hands on one of the discontinued Rotring 600s, then the L-Tech 3.0 is an excellent alternative and a decent pen regardless. It retails for $99, but you can occasionally find it on sale for less. I was able to pick mine up for $59. So the next honorable mention is a pen from Delta, and that pen is the Delta Grand Journal Oversize. The Journal is one of Delta's entry-level pens. They have the Unica, and then there is the Grand Journal Oversize. You can find it for just over $50. These are mainly sold by the Italian retailer Marte Modena, either through their website or through their eBay store. If you get lucky at an auction, you could potentially pick one up for less. This is a solid pen for the price. I really like the size of the pen. The style isn't necessarily exciting, but it's very functional. I do like the oversized section. This is a cartridge converter pen, and like a number of Deltas, it does have a blind cap where you can access the converter almost as if this was a piston filler. I can't say that that's my favorite feature. I'm not a huge fan of things that pretend to be something they're not. I would just prefer to just unscrew this barrel so that you can get a good look at the fill that you get. This is the black model, but the Grand Journal Oversize actually comes in a wide variety of colors. You know, and I've really found that Delta steel nibs are very, very nice. I haven't had one that's disappointed me yet. So 2 more honorable mentions. Next is the Aurora Ypsilon. This retails for just under $100, and it's an interesting pen. It has a bit of a unique design with this kind of bulbous cap, and this particular model has a matte blue finish on a resin body. I believe they call this their satin finish, but it has a real nice feel to it. The nib is a bit on the small side. I wish it was a size larger. And it is a bit on the stiff side as well. It's a little more toothy than smooth, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. You know, I like that the cap snaps to post. Both the cap, the snap to cap and the snap to post are rather satisfying. It's a lightweight pen that's well balanced and very comfortable to use, either posted or unposted. And the final honorable mention is the Platinum 3776. Now, I really debated whether this pen belonged in this price range or not. Through US retailers, the standard 3776 is around $150. But through Japanese sites, as well as Amazon and eBay, the pen can be found for about half that price. Now, the retailers that you choose to support and how you choose to purchase your pen is a personal choice, and is much debated in the pen world. Maybe it's a topic I'll discuss at a later time, but during a top 10 list isn't necessarily the appropriate time. But in regard to this specific pen, regardless of which of the 2 prices you pay, it's a very nice pen. The only reason that this is in my honorable mentions has to do with the nib more than the pen itself. For me, the nib on the 3776 has just a little bit too more spring to it than I prefer, and that there are some different versions of the 3776 that I care for a little bit more, and some of those just might show up on my next list. So the Chartreuse Blue, which I feel is a very beautiful and well-crafted pen, was relegated to an honorable mention, but it is still very much worthwhile. Okay, enough with the honorable mentions. Let's get to the list. Coming in at number 10 is a very cool pen from a relatively new company, and that is the Tactile Turn Gist. Tactile Turn is a company run by a gentleman by the name of Will Hodges, and Will launched this pen via a Kickstarter campaign in the end of near the end of 2015, and the pens were delivered in early 2016. The Gist is made from a polycarbonate, somewhat similar to the Lamy 2000, and it really provides a very cool tactile experience. You can kind of hear it here, but the pen is actually covered with long grooves, kind of like the groove on a record that extends across each section of the pen. It's not a bunch of rings, it's just one groove that slowly goes down. This particular version has the Damascus steel accents. These accents are one of my favorite features of any pen in my collection. Just look at that finial. That rolled steel is just amazing. Now, the Damascus version, as well as most of the other versions of the pen, sell for higher than $100, but the all polycarbonate version is just under $100 and very much worthwhile picking up. The Damascus one also has a Damascus steel section to it. The sub 100 model comes with a Bach nib, which performs very well, but there is also the option to equip it with a gold nib at an additional cost. Will has created a very good line of pens at a reasonable cost, and I like supporting small businesses like his, which are producing quality and innovative products. So next we have a TWSBI. Now, TWSBI is very well positioned in the sub $100 market, and their pen coming in at number 9 is the VacMini. This is a relatively new model from TWSBI, and while it's not a perfect pen, when it launched, it had some issues. I felt that it has enough going for it to warrant a place on this list. First of all, it's a vacuum filler, and I think that vacuum fillers are fun and cool. And this allows a very small pen to have a fairly large ink capacity. It's made of clear injected molded plastic in both both the barrel and the cap are faceted. Downsides? This pen is too small for me to use unposted, but the cap posts by screwing it on at the end of the barrel, which isn't my favorite posting method. In addition, the cap actually has a tendency to cross thread when posting and capping a little bit, which could be a little annoying. In addition, there are dual threads, where basically means that there's two possible endpoints for the clip when you're posting it. This one right here, where the clip is actually facing down, isn't very comfortable, which it kind of grinds into your finger. Or the position will be up, which is just fine. The VacMini writes beautifully. In my experience, TWSBI's Jowo nibs perform very well. And the nib on my VacMini is no exception. This medium is very smooth and very juicy. For most of the TWSBI line, I feel you get more than what you pay for. But at the $60 retail price for the VacMini, I think that's pretty much the high end of the value spectrum for this pen. If you like smaller pens and you don't mind twisting to post, then the VacMini could be a very good choice for you. Next, at number 8, we have another small pen, and that pen is from Pilot, and that pen is the Pilot Prera. The Prera is a small pocket pen which comes in a variety of colors. Some versions of the Prera are solid in color, and then you have the transparent versions like this, which have color accents at the end, just like this one. Personally, I like the looks of the transparent version the best. The cap actually snaps off, and a while ago, there was a question a user posed on Reddit about what pen had the most satisfying click when capping, and the Prera was the runaway winner. It has a really unique capping mechanism where you kind of push it, and at about this point, you kind of feel some soft tension around here, and you continue to press down the cap until you receive a very smooth and indeed satisfying click. This is a small pen for me that really doesn't feel good in my hand unposted, but the good thing is that it posts very easily and securely, which is a key feature for a pocket pen. And I feel that the added weight on the back of this pen actually helps balance it out a little bit better. I really like the transparent section. This isn't part of the accent color. I just have some blue ink in here, and so that it could really serve to add another accent of color to the pen. And that I really like the nib on the Prera as well. I find that it's a step up from the Pilot Metro. The Prera retails for just over $50 at most retailers, but at times you could actually find it out there for less. As of when I'm recording this, Jet Pens actually had the Prera for $38, I believe. Coming in at number 7 is a pen from Delta. And that pen is the Dolcevita Federico. The Federico is one of the entry-level pens in Delta's Dolcevita line. They have a number of pens that really look similar and have names that are somewhat similar and a little confusing. So you want to make sure that you do a sufficient enough research to really understand exactly what you're purchasing and to make sure that you end up with what you intend to purchase from Delta. I just had that thing happened to me a while ago with the Delta pen. I was kind of thought I was purchasing one version of a pen, but ended up in another. It was my fault, but still those things can happen. They come in a number of colors. This is the blue, but it also comes in the Traditional Delta orange. This is a slightly different model, but I wanted to show you the color scheme. I really like the way that the black and orange contrast on Delta pens. This is definitely an attention-grabbing pen. This color scheme makes a bold statement, and I really like it. But back to the blue, because this is the actual pen on the spot in this list. It is a cartridge converter pen, which you could fill either by taking off the very squeaky blind cap, or you could take off the entire barrel. And I've already talked about how I care for that. I find that the Federico to feel very nice in the hand. I like the size of the section. It's a bit on the thick side, and Delta steel nibs performed very, very well in my experience. I care for them a great deal. The pen does post, but it does post rather shallow and throws off the balance a bit. So on this one, I typically use it unposted. For an entry-level pen into Delta's Dolcevita line, the Federico is very much worthwhile. Okay, coming in at number 6, we have another Pilot. And it might just not be the last Pilot you see on this list. And that Pilot is the Custom Heritage 74. This is another pen where pricing concerns really come into play. Through a traditional US retailer, this pen sells for approximately $160. But through other channels, it can be found for about half that price. In the end, I felt that this pen just fit better into this group rather than the next higher group, which is the pen's $100 to $250 range. The Custom 74 is rather understated. It's a classic looking pen, and this is the clear demonstrator, but it also comes in some solid colors as well. The quality of the injection molded plastic feels a little bit on the cheaper side compared to some of like the resins or the higher quality acrylics of other Pilot pens, but it does feel well made. One of the best things about the Custom 74 is the 14 karat gold nib. I really like the feedback that this medium nib provides. It's a really fun nib to use. It's not buttery smooth, but if you like to feel a bit of friction, then you'll like this nib a great deal. And if you pick this one up, you'll want to get Pilot's Con 70 converter, which has a fairly large ink capacity. The Custom 74 isn't the most exciting pen, but it is a really good introduction into Pilot's custom line, which is their next level of gold nib pens. Okay, on to number 5. And at number 5, we have a Lamy. And the Lamy that we have is the Studio. Now, the Studio retails in the $70 to $80 range, and at the time I purchased this pen, it was the most I had ever spent on a pen. So I put a great deal of careful thought, research, and consideration into the purchase, and in the end, I really wasn't disappointed. I don't find myself reaching for it much these days, but I got a great deal of use out of this pen, and it was one of my favorites for a very long time. The clip on the Studio is one of my favorites. It really kind of gives the illusion that it's twisted, but it's actually more pinched. It really reminds me of an airplane propeller. I just think it's a really cool and unique look. This particular model is the brushed stainless version, and I really like how the brushed stainless feels in the hand. The Studio has a snap cap, and one of the things that is neat about it is it also snaps to post. And I really like that design element. When you post this pen, you really know that the cap isn't going anywhere, but it does kind of wobble a little bit, as you can see. At first, I thought something might be wrong with the pen. Then I realized that it was a little loose so that when you posted the pen, the metal would not rub against the metal and wear out. And so depending on how the pen actually lays in your hand, the edge of the cap when posted can be a bit sharp. The nib is the same as what's on the Safari, All-Star, and Vista, but for an additional $50 or so, you can get one with Lamy's gold nib, which is very nice as well. Okay, coming in at number 4, we have a Sailor, and that Sailor is the Promenade. The Promenade is one of Sailor's entry-level pens into their 1911 series. Similar to Delta, Sailor's 1911 line can get a bit confusing. So you want to make sure that you do your research and understand the differences between such pens as the Prophet, the Standard, the Pro Gear, the Rialo, and the Promenade. And I think there might even be a couple others in there that I missed. But you get the idea. I picked this pen up from a Japanese retailer for $90, and I was doing research online today, and I was having a difficult time actually even finding a US-based retailer who sells the Promenade. So there might be one out there, but I was having problems finding one. So quite possibly it's only available through a Japanese retailer or sites like Amazon or eBay. The Promenade looks very similar to the Platinum 3776. You can see here it's just slightly shorter, but the shape and the features are very similar in these two pens. Of the two, in my opinion, the Sailor has a higher quality feel to the pen, which contributed to it making this list and the platinum being in the honorable mentions as well. I really like the clip design. It has a little anchor and a bit of texture. You could see it here on the right compared to the Sailor Pro Gear, and on the left the Pro Gear 2, or the Sailor Pro Gear is on the left and the Pro Gear 2 is in the middle. I like the anchor more than the one on the Pro Gear 2, which I actually find to be a little bit cartoonish. Sailor makes some of my absolute favorite nibs, and the 14 karat nib on the Promenade is a great introduction to their gold nibs. I just really like the precise feedback that you receive with Sailor nibs. It's not buttery smooth, but you could really feel the paper. They're just great. This isn't the largest pen, so I do find myself using it with the cap posted to add a bit of overall weight to the pen, but it's a very, very comfortable pen to use, and that the Promenade provides solid value for the sub $100 purchase price. Okay, final stretch, 3 more to go. At number 3, we have another Pilot. And this is a Pilot which is known by 2 different names, depending on what region you purchase it in. In the US, it is known as the Stargazer, but in the Japanese market, it's known as the Stella 90S. You know what? I find myself gravitating towards larger pens, but I really love this little pen. If I ever do a top 10 list of small pens, the Pilot Stella 90S or the Stargazer just might be very hard to beat. It's that good. It comes in a number of different colors. This is the ruby red, and each variation has a subtle pearlescent sparkle that really just gives the pen a bit of personality and isn't too much in your face. It has a snap cap and a 14 karat rhodium-plated number 3 Pilot nib that is a rather small nib, but spectacular. I like my large pens, but this little pen is just so much fun to use. I mentioned this in my review a couple of weeks ago, but I probably use this pen more than any other in my collection. It lives on my desk. I typically have it just sitting there right on top of one of my keyboards. It's small enough that it doesn't get in the way, and it's just there whenever I need to write a quick note or something like that. It looks sharp. It's not going to get damaged if it rolls around my desk a bit, and it writes really, really well. In the US, the Stargazer retails for around $150, which is a lot for a small pen, but well worth it. However, if you search for this pen as the Stella 90S, you'll find that it's the very same pen, other than the name on the cap band. And then those sell for $85, which for this pen is just an amazing price. It's tough to find a really, really good gold nib pen for $85, and the Pilot Stella 90S is definitely a really good pen. Okay, coming in at number 2 is a TWSBI. It's a TWSBI which I happened to do a full review of recently, and that is the TWSBI Vac700. I'm a big fan of TWSBI pens. They really own the $50 to $100 market, and in regard to fun and innovative designs with a cool factor, they do a great job. Their pens look fantastic, they're easy to disassemble and clean, and really provide a great introduction to performing maintenance on your pens that might help you give you the experience and confidence you need in order to perform maintenance on some of your more expensive pens. The distinguishing feature of the Vac700 is the vacuum filling system that is just really fun to use and gives this pen a huge ink capacity. It's a clear demonstrator, but your choice of ink will actually give the pen a distinctive look. If you want a blue pen, fill it with blue ink. If you want an orange pen, then fill it with orange ink like I have in here. If you'd like to know more about vacuum filling systems in general, you can watch my review of the Vac700. In it, I go into more detail about how the system works, demonstrate how to use it, provide a couple of tips how to get the most complete fill. The medium steel nib on this pen is wet and juicy and decently smooth. I really like TWSBI nibs, and the nib on the Vac700 is the largest they have to offer. The Vac700 retails for $65, and I feel that you get a tremendous value for that price. And it's really a must-have if you're looking to take that next step up from a starter pen. And it does feel very comfortable in the hand. And like I said, it's just fun to use. Okay, now it's time for number 1. And As with my under $50 list, this was not a tough decision. I debated a great deal about which pens should be included on this list and their order, but for me, the number one pen was never in doubt. And that pen is the TWSBI Diamond 580. The Diamond 580 has a lot going for it. It's a clear demonstrator with a piston filling system, which when I purchased this pen, it was a first for me in both regards. It was the first demonstrator and the first piston filler. The Diamond 580 is a decently sized pen. It's not small. Most entry-level pens are a bit smaller, so at the time I purchased it, it was really the largest pen in my collection. I thought it was huge. It doesn't really post that deep, so posting it really adds some length to the pen, so typically you use it unposted. The faceted barrel really looks nice in contrast to the rounded cap. And the pen has a very, very large ink capacity. It's just really cool watching the ink slosh around inside this barrel. You know, I really like the TWSBI logo and the rounded finial that they have on the 580 and most of their other pens. And, you know, it's one of my favorite finials in all of my collection. The steel nib, while smaller than the one on the VAC700, is very nice. It's decently smooth and fairly wet. You know, I'll include the Diamond 580 AL on this list as well. It's basically the same pen, but just with a couple of clear parts in the section here and in the piston area. They've traded out a couple of the clear parts for aluminum parts. There's really not enough difference about these pens to separate them out. The Diamond 580 retails for $50 and the AL retails for $60. And in my mind, both are a bargain. You get pens that are very, very well made, performs outstanding, and has an extraordinarily high cool factor. Once you start using one of these, something just might click in your brain and you'll be like, now I get it. You know, quite some time ago, I used to be a stockbroker, and if you look at the growth charts for upstart companies, you'll find a lot of times the same pattern in a number of them. It's like really slow growth, then all of a sudden something happens and there's a large jump in the revenue that takes a company into an entirely different realm. And that's what this pen did for me. After receiving it, I just couldn't get over how cool it was. And it really caused me to ask myself a very, very dangerous question. And that was, if this pen is so cool, then what other cool pens are out there? You know, I get a little nostalgic when I use this pen. You know, it kind of takes me back to a time when I was just getting started in the hobby. You know, I was perfectly content with the few pens that I had, and, you know, I really didn't have a huge desire to find out what else was out there. But after receiving this pen and using it, that was it. That's what really triggered my obsession and my journey down this path where I am today. So, to review, coming in at number 10, we have the Tactile Turn Gist. At number 9, there's the TWSBI VacMini. At number 8, we have the Pilot Prera. Then at number 7, there's the Delta Dolcevita Federico. At number 6, the Pilot Custom Heritage 74. Number 5 is the Lamy Studio. Number 4, the Sailor Promenade. At number 3 is the Pilot Stargazer / Stella 90S. Coming in at number 2 is the TWSBI Vac700. And at number 1, we have the TWSBI Diamond 580 and Diamond 580 AL. So there you have it. My list this year for top 10 fountain pens between $50 and $100. You know, I hope this provided you with some useful information and maybe an idea or two in regard to what your next fountain pen should be if you're looking to take that next step up from entry-level pens. And be on the lookout next week for the next in the series of top 10 lists, where I'll cover my favorite pens in the $100 to $250 range, which is really a fun range for pens. There are a large number of quality pens in that range, and it was really a challenge to limit the list to only 10 with a couple of honorable mentions. So until then, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.